Good evening, Lake Orion. Welcome to History Now here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. Hope you're doing great. I want to talk to you guys today about a very unique topic, unique subject, and it is a subject that not a lot of people talk about or even think about, and that is the history of shot put. Why shot put? Well, I have a lot of personal history with shot put. I actually am a current coach of the shot put at Walden Middle School. I've been coaching there since 2008, 2009. And I also threw shot put in a middle school at Scripps Middle School back in 2002. And then in high school at Lake Orion High School, I threw from 2003 to 2006. Now, shot put is a part of track and field, and that Lake Orion has had a very, very successful shot put and discus program. Discus I won't talk about on the show, but shot put and discus have been very, very kind to Lake Orion in the last several years. In also you got not just Lake Orion. Lake Orion's currently coached by Mr. Bob Bridges, who is the girls basketball freshman coach. This was his first year. Former Lake Orion varsity girls basketball coach Steve Roberts was a former shot put coach. Also teacher Eric Rutledge, teacher Kevin Swan, even though he is in Illinois at present, coaching over there. Also teacher Don McLaughlin. These are Lake Orion teachers / stadium teachers as well. Mr. Rutledge is a stadium teacher. Also former Lake Orion junior varsity football coach and also current Livonia Clarenceville coach Ryan Irish was also a Lake Orion coach for shot put. Now, there are several successful shot put coaching programs in the area other than Lake Orion. Oxford has had a very successful shot put program led by Coach George. Coach George, he's very, very good. He holds you accountable, and he's a very, very good shot put coach, a great man, and he's been very, very successful over the years at Oxford. He's had George Balestos, who threw there, and then Connor Bendel, probably the best shot put and discus thrower in the state of Michigan. So got to give George a lot of credit for coaching both those two throwers. History of shot put began in the time of the Greeks. From 1260 to 1180 BC, there was a time called the Trojan War, which was the 10-year siege of Troy, which is in present-day Turkey by several Greek states. So, to take up the time during the act of war, several soldiers would participate in an event called rock throwing. Now, rock throwing, pretty simply put, is just basically you're just throwing a rock. But there was competitions about who threw the farthest rock, and it started off in a lot of soldiers back then, because we didn't have technology, didn't have any sort of technological or anything, but just having fun with rock throwing. It was very there were some competitions held during the time of the Trojan War. Now, ultimately, Troy did fall to the Greeks, but there was some fun going on in the form of rock throwing. Why couldn't they settle issues or disputes by rock throwing instead of weaponry and guns? Beats me. There was also evidence of stone throwing or rock throwing in Scotland. The Highland Games, it is called. There was often, it still happens to this day. It's also evidence of stone throwing, especially in Scotland. Back then, there was 16 to 26 pound stones. They weren't shot puts, but they were stones. So they could go as big as light as 16 pounds, as heavy as 26 pounds for the men. And then for the women, at that time, women could throw the stones as well. They were between 8 to 18 pounds. So there was stone throwing. And then there was also in the Middle Ages, cannonball throwing. So if you're going into cannonballs, so if you can imagine just throwing a cannonball, throwing it out for distance, they had some fun times. I am surprised that should people in the United States experiment with it? It beats me, but those sound like some fun things to do. Rock throwing, stone throwing, cannonball throwing. Just got to find some cannonballs. Shot put competitions began, and they were also recorded. It mostly started around in Scotland, even though rock throwing began during the Trojan War, but also stone throwing also began in Scotland. Shot put competitions began in Scotland. They were also recorded in Scotland, and they were part of the British Amateur Championships back in 1866. So shot put competitions began. So at that point, they were starting to throw within. Now, to understand what a shot put is, I wish I had brought my shot put today. I did not for whatever reason. I don't know. But shot puts, they're mostly of an iron ball-like substance, and it can be very, very heavy. They can be for men, that can be an 8-pound shot to a 16-pound shot put. For a woman, it's about 6 pounds to about 12 pounds, and it'll vary by whether it be in middle school or in high school or in the college / the Olympics / the World Games. So the goal of shot put is to throw it in a circle, which is 7 feet in diameter and 3.9 inches. But there are also several organizations there are different organizations. There's the International Association of Athletics Federation, better known as the IAAF, and then also you have the World Masters as well. Then what they do is, the difference is that they measure distances based on the nearest centimeter, whereas in the United States, often more or less, whether it be they measure by feet and inches. So there is different rules between how distances are measured, but overall you're still throwing a heavy iron ball into either a pit of sand or into a grassy pit. And we come back, we're going to talk about the rules of shot put, also the forms of shot put, here on History Now, here on ONTV.
In 1997, approximately 100 runners and walkers took part in the very first Dragon Dash. The event has grown every year since then, and now, 20 years later, Orion Township once again invites you to take part in the 2017 Dragon Dash. This 5K certified course begins and ends at the Orion Center and takes participants on a scenic trek along the Pollyant Trail. Awards are handed out in numerous age divisions. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned competitor, come out for the Dragon Dash on Sunday, May 21st at 9 a.m. For more information, call 248-391-0304 extension 305 or visit oriontownship.org.
Welcome back to History Now here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. I'm continuing my topic of talking about the history of shot put. I want to talk to you guys about the rules of shot put because, yes, there are rules, I made mention that you do throw a shot put or a stone put or a rock in a 7 feet in diameter, a 3.9-inch circle. There are different rules, and I thought I'd share them with you. Now, the rules of shot put are you have 60 seconds to throw. You have 60 seconds to throw. If you are in there any more than 60 seconds, you automatically get a foul and you would get disqualified from your throw. Now, the amount of throws you can get varies. In the Oxford Invitational, so I'll use Coach George's Invitational. He runs the Invitational much like a regional. In that Invitational, you have 3 throws, you have 3 putts that you can to throw, and you have to hit a certain mark. If you make your first throw, they count, but your second and third throws, you have to hit a mark. And if you don't make that mark, they will not count that foul. So usually it's the top 7 or top 8 or even top 9 throwers will go to the finals, and then they will get another 3 shot put putts, and then the farthest distance is essentially your champion, and then you got second place and third place and fourth place and so on. So, but nonetheless, you have 60 seconds to throw, and if you don't throw in that 60 seconds, if you throw past the 60 seconds, there is a foul. You cannot have gloves. But in the IAAF, the International Association of Athletics Federation, you can use tape. Now, there have been, back in the day, there have also been rules of no earrings. You can now wear earrings now. You cannot wear gloves. They have tried to, but you can wear wristbands. Now, that was a rule that was recently passed a couple years ago to where you can now wear wristbands. They prefer you not to wear anything, but they do now allow for wristbands, and most are starting to use the wristbands. You must rest the shot put close to the neck, and it's very important to keep the shot put tight on the neck. A lot of times you'll have throwers that will throw like this or throw far out. That they will not count that. They will give you a foul. They will disqualify you. And if official allows that to happen, then they don't understand the rule. But you must rest the shot close to the neck, and you have to keep it tight on your neck. And it's got to be tight throughout the whole process. It cannot be used during the you cannot go through the whole process and then just throw the shot like this. You can't do that. It must be released above the shoulder. It has to go above the shoulder. It cannot go, you want it to go a 45-degree angle. That is a great angle in order to complete the form. It has to be released above the shoulder. You can touch inside of the circle, and what they'll have in front of the circle is a toe board. They will have a toe board to where and you can touch the inside of the toe board, but you cannot touch above or you cannot touch out. Then the official can call that a foul, and that would not be a good thing. That would still be considered a foul. You cannot exit. You cannot go forward. If you go forward with forward momentum, go out of the ring, that is considered a foul. And the athlete must exit the back. There's been a conception about the athlete whether to enter and exit the back. A lot of times coaches and other officials will have athletes enter and exit from the back, just to a good learning lesson, just to teach kids to basically enter and exit from the back. A lot of athletes will enter from the sides, and the reason that was okay, and that is okay, that you can enter from the sides. They should not count that against you. Now, there are 4 forms of shot put. 2 of them are a lot more used than others, but middle schoolers, in this case, they use 4. They'll use the power position, which is basically, it's basically a squat, and then you are using your legs, and then you're throwing out and up. So that's pretty much the power position. If you're standing in the circle, you're going to be standing to the closest to the toe board, and then you'll be throwing it. You cannot touch the top of the toe board. That is called a foul, and that would not be a good thing. Shuffle throw, you start at the beginning of the ring where you exit, but you start there, and then you basically shuffle your feet all the way to the end, and then you have to stay in a stance. It's important to stay in a stance of pretty much big chest and big butt. Big chest, big butt. That was Coach Ryan Irish's saying. You have to have big chest and big butt, and you have to be tough. You have to be tough. So, that's how you do the shuffle position. That is the primary technique that we use at Walden, is called the power shuffle. Now, in 1951, Perry O'Brien of the United States did a new technique, and it was called the glide. In the glide, you are facing backwards. If you are a right-hander, you are facing the rear of the circle. You're going to kick your front with your left leg while going quick with your right leg. Your hips twist, and then you're going to throw. Then you throw it with your right hand. You're facing backwards, you're rotating 180 degrees, and you're tossing a shot. That is called the glide position, and that was started in 1951. Now in 1972, Alexander Braniskov from the Soviet Union did a different form called the spin, which was basically the major throw you do in discus, which is rotational momentum. It was led by his coach, Viktor Alexeyev. Well, they're both Russians, both Soviet Union at the time. They are a right-handed thrower. You spin the shot off the left foot. You face the circle. You drive right foot into the middle of the circle. Thrower then reaches for the front of the circle with the left foot. You twist your hips and shoulders while you're pushing the shot put up and out. Most top athletes, especially in the college and the world, but also you could also use high school as too, they use the spin at their major throw. Now the glide is also used, but not like the spin. So the major throw that most throwers will use, it varies. In middle school, they use the shuffle for the most part, the power and the shuffle for the most part. High school, they mostly will use the glide. And then in college and the world, they will go with the spin. But some throwers will go with the spin in high school. It depends and it varies. In Lake Orion, a lot of throwers will go the glide. And it's probably said during a lot of the other schools, like Clarkson or in Oxford, they'll mostly go glide, but the top throwers will usually go spin. So pretty much the competition of shot put has been included in every Summer Olympic game since 1896 and the World Athletic Championships. But the women, they didn't bring shot put for women until 1948. Now, when we come back, I'm going to talk to you guys about the world records and the legacy of shot put, also give a special tribute to somebody. here on History Now on ONTV.
Spring is in the air. The Lake Orion DDA is gearing up for the 16th annual Flower Fair, scheduled to take place over Mother's Day weekend, beginning on Friday, May 12th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and continuing on Saturday, May 13th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. With 60 to 70 vendors set up over 2 days in downtown Lake Orion selling flowers, garden art, and home improvement items, you are sure to find something you like. This annual favorite will once again give you the opportunity to find the perfect gift for mom. For more information on the Lake Orion Flower Fair, you can call 248-693-9742 or visit downtownlakeorion.org.
Welcome back to History Now here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. I want to talk to you guys about, we were talking about the Summer Olympic Games since 1896. Shot put has been a competition in the Summer Olympic Games since 1896. Also, it's been in the World Athletic Championship. Women, as I said, it didn't start for women until 1948. It is very prominent in Special Olympics as well. Notice several Special Olympic athletes have been throwing shot put, and it's quite an experience. That it's like not just long. It felt like it started with rock throwing, then it had stone throwing, then you had cannonball throwing. Now you have shot put, you have discus, the javelin. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I wanted to talk to you guys about I made mention earlier about the sizes of a shot put. I'm going to reiterate. Middle school, the girls will use the 6-pound shot put. The boys will use the 8-pound shot put. In high school, the girls will use the 8-pound shot, and the boys will use the 12. And then in the college, in the world, the boys will use the 16, and the women will use the 12. So sometimes they'll use the 10, sometimes they use the 8, but to what I've heard, it's been the 12. So the records holders for shot put at present is in the indoors and the outdoors were both led by Randy Barnes of the United States. He threw a 74 feet 4 inches in indoor shot put in 1989. And yes, you can throw shot put indoors. There's a different, they'll put sand in the shot put. So, but they're different weights. So I wanted to bring up indoor briefly. And then outdoor, 75 feet 10 inches in 1990. Both held by Randy Barnes of the United States. Now in the women, you've got Nelena Ferdigogov of Czechoslovakia. She threw 73 feet 9 3/4 inches in 1977. Now, that's impressive for indoor shot put for a woman. And then even more impressive outdoor shot put for a lady is Natalia Lisivozga of the Soviet Union. She threw 74 feet 2 3/4 inches in 1987. Another very impressive. And there was always that stigma that women could not throw shot put. But when they introduced it in 1948, women proved them wrong. And give credit to all the women who participated in shot put and continue to this day. I also wanted to bring up the recent, in 2016, which was recently held in Rio, the United States won both the men's and women's shot puts. Very impressive. In the world, the United States has been dominant, especially in the men. And the women, it was the United States' first medal in shot put since 1952. So that was very impressive. After being dominated by the Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, the United States is finally getting the recognition they deserve in shot put. Now, before I end with History Now, I wanted to give a special shout out and special love to one of our own. He recently left us way too soon. Glenn, when I first began History Now, Glenn was our film guy. He was the guy that was in the back filming both History Now and Between Taorminas, and he always enjoyed filming our both respective shows, History Now and Between Taorminas. And in January, he left us way too soon. He entered eternal life. But I just wanted to let you know that his memory will not be forgotten. When we first started History Now, I reached out to Glenn and I asked him to be my film guy. And he said he'd gladly do it. So for the first few shows, Glenn was our film guy. He filmed my my role with my Asperger's syndrome speech when I was talking to you all about my Asperger's, and he filmed my first few shows about World War II, and just an amazing guy, amazing individual. He was an ambassador at ONTV. He really, he came in every day. He loved elections. He really loved elections, and no doubt a fantastic individual. No doubt he will be missed. Glenn, I miss you. I hope you're doing well up in those wonderful skies in heaven. And thank you for everything you did for me. Thank you for everything you did for History Now. Thank you for everything you did for Between Taorminas. And thank you for everything that you did for ONTV. You will be missed, my friend. Thank you very much. Well, that will do it for this episode of History Now. Wanted to share with you guys the history of shot put, obviously the legacy of shot put as it's still going strong. You see it in middle school. Elementary school, you still see it in softball toss, but they don't exactly it's kind of like rock throwing, but you see it with softball toss a little bit. Then you have shot put, you still see it with rock throwing, stone put, cannonball throws. Man, we got to do that. And then still shot put still going strong and well to this day. It's unbelievable. They started something in 1260 BC, and here we are, 2017, and shot put is still going strong as ever. All right, thank you very much, Lake Orion. Also, if you're watching around the country and the world, thank you very much. Have a great night and see you soon.